Thanks for having me. Please forgive my throat. Allergies are kicking in, so if I clear it too much, I apologize ahead of time. So today we're going to talk about authentic love of self, but also kind of bringing in an aspect of relationship. And as we have a sense of vocation. Vocation, for me is an authentic, living authentic with ourselves, and that's understanding ourselves socially, relationally, sexually as male, female, and even spiritually. So as we talk, I'm going to be talking a lot about self, but when I bring up a lot of this stuff, I want you to bring in the aspect of there's God, others, self. A long time ago, Sister Bernarda Mary used to say, we have joy, Jesus, others, and yourself. But let's look at that aspect. Even though I'm going to be talking a lot, there is that aspect of God, others, and self. So let's see. This here, this is G.K. Chesterton. This is my vocation as a mental health therapist. I've been in the mental health world for about 20 years. I own my own practice in Rochester, this is one of the aspect of my vocation which I find to be like a theme. To love means loving the unlovable. To forgive means pardoning the unpardonable. Faith means believing the unbelievable, and hope means hoping when everything seems hopeless. This is an opportunity that I have every day to work with people and to bring this aspect to them, to love them, to help them forgive themselves, to help them forgive other people, to bring hope to their lives. And so, as I talk, as I share, this is the big aspect of my vocation. So let's hop in. Whoops, wrong way. What is authenticity? This is the biggest aspect of my talk today, is authenticity. When we look at authenticity, it's the aspect of being who we are. It's being our true selves, having our true feelings. A lot of times the world says, well, if you're not this, then you're canceled, especially today. If you don't believe this, then you're wrong. If you don't believe that, then I can't talk to you. We don't have the ability today, the opportunity today to be authentic, to be real. And so in my practice, I see this a lot. People coming in and looking at this aspect of what do I do when, if I'm authentic, if I'm real, I'm rejected, I'm unloved, I'm divorced, I'm this, I'm that. So looking at authenticity as being that true aspect of you, whether it's culturally likable, culturally not, but we have to be willing to, when we look at authenticity, we have to be willing to take risks. We have to be willing to make mistakes. We have to be willing to embrace and confront our struggles. But the other aspect of this is when we do all this, we bring it not only to God, not only to our faith, to our spirituality, but we bring it to those people that are part of our lives. Okay? That allows us to be truly authentic. One of the biggest questions that I'm going to ask, let me go back, is, are you authentic? As I talk, just kind of step back and say, do I live for myself? Do I live for the culture? Do I live for other people? Am I worried about what other people are going to say? Do I have an authenticity in my spirituality? Do I really have that strong, authentic, close, meaningful relationship with God? One of the things that I use a lot in my practice, I came up with this, and I found this a while ago. It's called the intimacy ladder. One of the biggest aspects of true authenticity is self-authenticity is self-knowledge. We have to become aware of ourselves. We have to know who we are. Whether we like it or not, that's something that we can work through. But we have to kind of know who we are. So there's aspects in which this intimacy ladder will help us. First, truth. Truth, trust, security, vulnerability, and intimacy. We'll go through these. When we look at the truth, what truths do I need to know about myself? There's some basic truths. I'm male, I'm female, I'm father, I'm mother, I'm priest, religious. There's basic truths. These are truths that we can't deny. Some people try, but we can't deny. But when we look at, the truths of our identity, okay, let's start looking at what are our values. What do we believe? What do we hold true? Our values are developed young in our lives. They're given to us partially by our parents, but as we experience life, as we experience social interaction, as we experience just life in general, we develop our values. Step back. What are your top 5 values? God, family, education, spirituality. When we look at our values, we step back and, okay, well, as I find my truth, okay, what priorities do I live by? Where am I putting my energy? Okay, if my 5 values are family, faith, whatever else, am I putting my energy into workaholism or into unhealthy behaviors, over socializing, addiction? So what are the lived priorities? Stepping back and saying, okay, this is healthy, this is not. But it's also stepping back and saying, okay, so in order for me to find my truth, what are my desired priorities? The desired priorities are hopefully going to be based in my 5 values. If I'm living, workaholism, life of addiction, and I have a family at home, I'm not living my priorities. Okay? If I call myself, a Catholic, and I haven't attended church, and because I've slept in or because I've got a football game or whatever, I haven't lived my priorities. My values. So it's looking at when I start to look at what's my compass, my values, and how am I living at? Where do I want to be? Next level is where am I least secure? Everybody has something about themselves that they don't like, something that causes them to feel shame, feel insecure, or feel not good enough. This can be physical, emotional, it could be social, spiritual. It's that thing that maybe we just don't like about ourselves, or we have fears about ourselves. The thing that we protect, the secrets that we hold, okay? How am I not secure in myself? How can I change that? How can I bring that up in prayer with other people? Okay. Like Father said earlier, we're a beautiful mess. I think that's probably one of the best. I'm going to use that, Father. I hope you don't mind. We are a beautiful mess. So even though we have the aspects of security, well, what are those what is that lack of security based on? Is it based on truth, that we are in the image and likeness of God, or is it based on the fallacies that society? I need to be, six-pack, bulky, and everything else. Where and how do I not trust myself? So the aspect of, all right, so now here I've started finding my truth. I'm starting to become secure. What securities, where do I find that sense of security, or where can I start to change that sense? Well, how can I start to trust myself? Again, looking at, am I trying to please others? Do I take risks? Do I allow myself to make mistakes? Okay, and if I make those mistakes, can I use those mistakes as opportunities? Do I acknowledge my emotions? This is so huge nowadays that in my practice, one of the biggest things that I help teach is what is healthy emotion. We live in a world where emotion is dramatized. We live in a world where emotion is if it's not up here, then it's not acceptable. So it's acknowledging healthy, true emotions. The last thing is taking a break, stepping back, and as you learn to look at yourself, just stepping back and saying, okay, what can I do for myself? What do I need for myself? How can I take the opportunities to better have that trust in myself? Finally, not finally, but what vulnerabilities do I protect? One of the biggest things that I look at with a lot of my clients, and this is probably the first thing that I really address, is shame. Shame is we all have that aspect of shame. We live in shame. Shame is that aspect of I'm not good enough. I don't belong. I'm ugly. I'm unlovable. Whatever self-narrative that we hold, we live by that. There's a book, The Soul of Shame, talks about shame almost being an identity, like a living identity that lives within us. And I like that explanation because shame is often used by other people, by Satan himself, to bring us down, to tear us away from our truth, from our authenticity. Shame ultimately is that self-protection. It's what we use or what we believe in order to pull us away from other people. We protect that sexual sin. We protect that feeling that we have about ourselves. We protect the feeling we have about somebody else. Okay, it's those aspects of self-narrative of I'm good enough. I'm not good enough. That person likes me. Those people don't. And ultimately, where we develop this aspect of shame is what's known as the inner critic. So this inner critic, it's that voice that's always there. It's always you step in a room, you look around, and oh my gosh, I'm overdressed. Or you're talking to somebody and you realize, oh my, is there a hair out of place? Or do I have bad breath? Or does this person like me? There's that inner critic. And those are basic things, but sometimes it goes deeper. I'm not good enough for this person. This person doesn't believe that I have any value. Or could I get canceled by this person? Shame is one of the biggest things, like I said, that I really find pulls us away from other people, pulls us away from God, but especially pulls us away from us being authentic. So I think it's critical that when we look at what vulnerabilities do we protect, what are those things that I hide, what are those secrets that I hold, okay, that prevents me from being real and open and honest with other people. Now, obviously, you want to discern who you're going to share your secrets with. You're not going to go to Wegman speakers and attention all shoppers. This is my secrets. But no, you find that one person, those people, that support to really be vulnerable with. Okay. As we look back, stepping back and saying, how am I not authentic? When we look at some of the aspects of what I just presented, where am I not authentic? Okay, how does this lack of authenticity prevent me from maybe choosing the right vocation, maybe choosing what God's will is for me? Do I feel like I can acknowledge in front of other people God's will for me? Do I hide it? So intimacy with self is authentic. That's kind of exactly where I was going. Let's skip that. When we look at the intimacy ladder, okay, the other aspect that I really bring in is the aspect of, okay, I have that intimacy with self. I have that self-knowledge. I've looked at my insecurities. I looked at my truths. I've looked at who I am. in the eyes of myself and God. So now I bring this ladder, this aspect of intimacy to relationships, okay? This relationship especially with God, especially with other people, whether that be my spouse, whether that be my best friend. So we start to bring these aspects of the intimacy ladder to the relationship. What truth do I bring to the relationship? Okay. As we bring our truths to the relationship, okay, let me go, I'll have to come back to that. What truths do I bring to the relationship? As we learn about each other's authentic truth, how do we feel more secure with each other? So as I start to share myself with you, we start to develop a comfort. We start to develop an understanding. Okay? With security, excuse me, what comfort does trust bring to the relationship? Okay? So we start to develop that openness. We start to develop that, I can be a little bit crazy around you, or I can start to share little bit of, little aspects of myself that I wouldn't necessarily share with other people. In a relationship, this is what's known as individuation in a regular relationship. An intimate relationship with a partner, spouse, so on and so forth. So we start to, in a sense, open up that closet door with the skeleton and say, hey, this is who I am. And the other person has the opportunity to say, I'm going to run away now, or, hey, let's work through this. Okay. With trust, what risks can we make by being more vulnerable? Okay, so if I start to feel a little bit more comfortable, I start to open up that closet door, the other person's going to do the same. The other person does the same. We now are taking what is positive, negative, ugly, so on and so forth, and making that a part of our relationship. We're being authentic. We're being real, okay? In our vulnerability, how does knowing each other bring intimacy? Let me go back here. Whoops. All right. So going back to the intimacy ladder, one of the other aspects that I skipped over, but I'll come back to, is, just a second. Which way am I going here? The aspect of God. Okay, when we look at our relationship with God, we also need to climb this ladder with God. This quote is actually the third step from AA. Okay, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God as we understand Him. Okay, so there's the aspect in which when we develop our sense of authenticity, we have to bring this to God, but God is also going to give us the grace to see ourselves. Remember, we're made in His image and likeness. If we truly seek Him, He's going to show us. Okay, so made a decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God. So it's looking towards Him. Going back to the aspect of what truths do I need to bring to God? When I go to confession, do I I don't want to really say that to the priest, but am I really talking to the priest? No, I'm talking to Christ. So being open. Where am I secure? Where am I not secure with God? Well, I like this about the church, but I don't like that about the church. Do I trust God? Do I trust the faith? Do I trust the church? Do I trust what God is presenting to me as truth? Go back here. How am I vulnerable with God? When I pray, is it Hail Mary? No, is it like, God, help. God, I'm angry with you. God, I'm hurt. One of the aspects that I find that a lot of people hold in their authenticity with their faith is we don't hold an authentic faith because sometimes we don't know what our authentic faith is. We don't know who God is. The last part of that quote, get back to it, too far, was, turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him. in our authenticity, in our vulnerability with God, do we fully understand him? Do we hold is our faith from Pastor so-and-so, from our parents? Or do we really have that authentic faith in which I can go to God and say, you know what, God, I'm angry with you today. God, I don't like this. God, I love you today. God, you're the most amazing thing that's happened. And so it's being able to bring that true relationship with God, that authentic relationship, following the steps. So let's continue with the questions. What is the truth about my relationship with God? How do I trust God? So where do I need to go? Where do I need to understand God differently? How secure am I with God and in God? Where do I need to be more vulnerable with God? And the intimacy, do I have an authentic relationship with God? Again, going back to that, is that relationship a relationship that I hold because mom and dad said so, or pastor so-and-so said so, or this is like that true, intimate relationship with God? All right, let me go back to, where am I? One of the aspects that, that I also look at, and this is more for the, when we look at relationships, especially the relationship with marriage, intimacy with self is crucial when it comes to the relationship in marriage. This is a little house that I drew a long time ago. I couldn't get the actual picture on the PowerPoint, so I drew it again. That's why it's all crooked and stuff. But so at the top, you have the roof. It's a triangle. The roof is the marriage, okay? Part of that marriage, Christian marriage, is God, husband, and wife. In that house, we have children. Okay? The house is based, or the foundation of the house is our past. And so as we look at authenticity, as we look at ourselves, as we look at our relationships with other people, what we're bringing, what we're not bringing, what we fear to bring, where our shame is, what are our self-narratives about relationships, about self, about God. We look at the aspect, and I have this as marriage, but you can probably put this into any relationship with a friend or so on and so forth, changing it up a little bit, obviously. But when we look at that marriage, our goal is to maintain that roof, to maintain that marriage, okay? 3 people belong in that marriage, in a Christian marriage. That's husband, wife, and God, okay? Now, in the marriage, there's in the house, there's 2 walls, okay? The wall of the husband, the wall of the wife, okay? Both walls are based in a foundation of our past. Now, like Father said earlier, we don't have a healthy past sometimes. Maybe we have the perfect past. It's okay, wherever your past comes from. We may have trauma, we may have hurt, we may have betrayal. So our past, the foundation is either based on something solid, something not, something crumbling, okay? Faith, secular, whatever. So we have to acknowledge that past. We can't live there, but we have to acknowledge it. So as we look at the authenticity of the relationship, as we look at, we hold up the roof, but we have to maintain our own wall. Okay? And this is in any relationship, but especially with, if I am too busy focusing on my spouse's wall, it's going to happen to mine. It's going to crumble. It's going to fall apart. It's going to crack. What happens to the roof? It starts to fall. Well, as we look at authentic, as we look at what we bring, vulnerability, so on and so forth, we strive to maintain our wall. We strive to maintain our wall, that self-intimacy, that self-knowledge, that self-truth, okay, not for just ourselves. But we also don't do it just for our spouse, just for the other person. We do it for the marriage, okay? We do it for the marriage, okay? We focus on the roof. We focus on what that relationship means. We focus on what I can do, what I need to change, where I need to be vulnerable in order to maintain that structure. Now, sometimes people come to my office all the time and say, marriage is done, marriage is not good, marriage is no good, in the sense that I don't like my spouse, or that my spouse is, could they come in and say, change my spouse, please, because I can't deal with them anymore. Well, and I take them to the aspect of, okay, well, what do you need to do? Because you can't change your spouse. They can only change themselves. So what does your wall look like? And so that's where we go back to the ladder. That's where we go back to, what's your truth? Where are you insecure? Okay. Has you, as a husband, wife, discover that, bring that to the therapy session, bring that to the marriage. We can then say, okay, this is where I can be vulnerable. This is where I can now go to God, ask my wife, my husband, to say, help me, be with me, support me. Okay. This is a crucial aspect in the sense that as we look at our relationships, the example of the marriage, relationships with friends, relationships with your congregation or your parish, we need to be aware of what tears us down. Okay. Shame, trauma, secret, fear, criticism, resentment, lies, pride. These are all things that we can begin to look at. These are all things that we can start to find our truth in. Where do I find the biggest aspects of shame for myself? How does that trauma from the past impact my relationship today? What do I fear? God is love. God is not fear. Criticism. Do I feel criticized, or do I criticize other people? And if I criticize other people, what is it about me that I have to look at? Resentment. One of the biggest aspects that I run into also is when I come to the marriage, I hold a lot of resentments. When people come to the marriage, they hold a lot of resentment. Resentment, I believe, prevents forgiveness. Because I can say, well, I forgive you today, but I'm gonna critique you, or I'm gonna resent you for something that you said 5 years ago because I haven't gotten over it. It's not that it doesn't hurt, it's not that it doesn't impact you, but the resentment is that aspect of, I'm holding on to something. I'm not being honest with myself, I'm not being honest with you, which tears away the security, which tears away the vulnerability, which means I'm pulling back. So overall, where I'm going is authenticity is truth. The authenticity is sharing that truth with God, with each other, with a priest in a confessional, with your spouse, with your BFF. As we find that truth, as we share that truth, we can come together. We can have that aspect of who we are, who you are, and we can complement each other. Now, how does that come back to vocation? Well, vocation is true, like authentic. When we live our vocation, it's we're living in our authentic will of God. And so, again, that comes back to the aspect of who we are in God. And once we have that aspect of who we are, knowing who we are in God, we can choose, where we're going to go in life. Husband, wife, priest, counselor, and then we find our authenticity. We find that opportunity to be open with other people, with ourselves especially. And so, Father Justin, in one of the emails he sent out to us, this is his quote, so I hope he doesn't mind me using it. We are created in God's love, called to love as he does. Vocations of service of any kind are lived in lives of love and joy, even if sacrifice and struggle as well. So, yeah, I guess that's my spiel. I wanted to open up. I wanted to leave time. I don't know how much time I have, but I want to leave time for any questions, thoughts, clarifications. Whether it be about this or whether it be about other mental health, I'm going to be here too. You know, I'm here just to talk, just to be open. And so, questions, thoughts, anything?
We have a microphone here that may help.
Oh.
So, anyone would like, before we do this, thank you, Patrick. We just didn't transition. How about if anyone has questions, take a step up there. I have a question.
Yes.
How many percentage of men in America do you think avail themselves of services, say, in counseling?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask because 90% of, well, I think more and more are coming into therapy. I work specifically in majority men, so I'd say probably 85% of, because it's a specialty, 85% of the people that I work with are men. So
Yeah,
as far as, yeah, for me, that's a majority of the people that I work with. So, but more and more men, it's becoming more and more acceptable.
Yeah.
Mental health is no longer stigmatized as much as it was, you know, when we were growing up. And
Yeah, you probably can't say this, but I met Patrick when I was going to him in Rochester, and I was just really stressed, and I wanted to talk about that stress. So, like, although it's not a stigma, say, in society, for any one individual, it could still be a stigma. So I would say consider that as a resource. There are many Catholic counselors, and it was a great help. So thank you. Yeah.
Question?
Any other questions? You can either step right up. I know we're putting you on the spot. If there's no questions, that's fine too. Did you give them your info?
What's that?
Did you give them your info if they want to get in touch? Okay.
Oh, no. I guess I could.
So how would someone get in touch with you?
I'm on, if you go CatholicTherapists.com, just look up Rochester Therapists, and my mug will be there. Currently, right now, I'm very overwhelmed. COVID, society stress, racial stress. I'm not able to accept new clients, but I can refer you to somebody that I trust, or somebody. But right now, the mental health world, the therapist world, we're all just so overwhelmed. So there's a lot of people out there that are hurting. There's a lot of people out there that are in need. But if you're in need, call. If not me, I'll find somebody. And if you're in crisis, call. I will make time for you. I'm not going to say, well, I can't take you right now. No, if you're in crisis, let me know or let somebody know. Reach out and.
Amen. Yeah, because there's this thought. Garrison Keillor has a lot of good thoughts. Pray for him. Anyways, he said in the old days, people would go to their aunts and they'd say, "Here are my problems." They talk to their aunts or their cousins or their uncles, whatever. Nowadays, we don't have those connections all the time, so this is a huge help. So find the connections, get some good advice.